Internal Revenue Service IRS tax news. Renewed tax credit can help employers hire workers. Key certificate requirement applies. IR 2021-184, September 14th, 2021, Washington. With many businesses facing a tight job market, the Internal Revenue Service reminds employers to check out a valuable tax credit available to them for hiring long-term unemployment recipients and other groups of workers facing significant barriers to employment. During National Small Business Week, there's a link to National Small Business Week here, the IRS is highlighting tax benefits and resources designed to help new and existing small businesses. For any business now hiring, the Work Opportunity Tax Credit, the WOTC, may help. Legislation enacted in December extended the WOTC through the end of 2025. This long-standing tax benefit encourages employers to hire workers certified as members of any of 10 targeted groups facing barriers to employment. With millions of Americans out of work at one time or another since the pandemic began, the IRS noted that one of these targeted groups is long-term unemployment recipients who have been unemployed for at least 27 consecutive weeks and have received state or federal unemployment benefits during part or all of that time. Obviously, unemployment went up during this time period, and then in an attempt to help, the government put in benefit programs, and there's always a double-edged sword with the benefit programs because the way they have to be designed, they generally will result in people being disincentivized to go back into the workforce as early as they otherwise might do, and therefore extending possibly the unemployment for some people past what it would be otherwise, making it a little bit more difficult to get back into the workforce because the longer that you are out of the workforce, the more difficult it might be to get back in, and that's what they're trying to address now with more government programs to incentivize people to pick people up again. Now, note, I would recommend that if you're looking at a situation, whatever time period you're in, and you're saying, I'm weighing this benefit program I might be getting versus the work and time and the money you would get for work, and you're probably saying in the short term, then it could be a situation where your working is going to be worse off than if you get the unemployment. But we're often not taking into consideration the long-term impacts because that's something that we as human beings, we don't take into consideration quite as readily. We're looking at the day-to-day decisions in terms of what's my time and money today on one option versus the other. But if we consider like the resume, building up the resume and what's going to happen basically in the long term with regards to our job opportunities, then that will typically weigh on the side of going back to work, even if when you consider the time and the money related to it, it may not be as beneficial even as just the benefit programs. So that's what I would recommend trying to lean towards going back to work just to build up the resume, especially if you're a younger person at this point in time and your resume doesn't have a lot to it. Then and you see an incentive program that basically is saying, you know, if I pick up the incentive program and not work, I can pick that up. If you're not doing anything else to build up the resume and whatnot, then of course that can lead to that longer term lag when you're trying to go back into the workforce. So I would try to steer against that most of the time, meaning, you know, even if it's a break even, working would typically be better, especially for young people, I would think, in order to build the resume. So don't let, in essence, government programs incentivize you out of the workforce would be my general advice. So in any case, the other groups include certain veterans and recipients of various kinds of public assistance, among others. Specifically, the 10 groups are temporary assistance for needy families, the TANF recipients, unemployed veterans, including disabled veterans, formerly incarcerated individuals, designated community residents living in empowerment zones or rural renewal counties, vocational rehabilitation referrals, summer youth employees living in empowerment zone, supplemental nutrition assistance program, this SNAP SNAP recipients, supplemental security income SSI recipients, long-term family assistance recipients, long-term unemployment recipients. To qualify for the credit, an employer must first request certification by submitting Form 8850 pre-screening notice and certification request for the Work Opportunity Credit. There's a link to that here to their state workforce agency or SWA. Do not submit this form to the IRS. Normally, the Form 8850 must be submitted to the SWA within 28 days after the eligible worker began work. But under a special relief provision, a November 8, 2021 submission deadline applies to two groups of new hires: qualified summer youth employees living in empowerment zones and designated community residents living in empowerment zones. To qualify for the November 8th submission deadline, eligible employees must start work on or after January 1st, 2021 and before October 9th, 2021. Other requirements and further deadlines or details can be found in Notice 2021-43. There's a link to that notice here, and instructions to Form 8850. There's a link to that here. Eligible businesses claim the WOTC on their federal income tax return. It is generally based on wages paid to eligible workers during the first year of employment. The credit is first figured on Form 5884. There's a link to that form here. Work opportunity credit, and then is claimed on Form 3800, general business credit. Though the credit is not available to tax-exempt organizations, for most groups of new hires, a special rule allows them to claim the WOTC for hiring qualified veterans. These organizations claim the credit against payroll taxes on Form 5884-C. There's a link to that here. Work opportunity credit for qualified tax-exempt organizations. For more information about the work opportunity tax credit, visit irs.gov/WOTC. Help spread the word. Advice child tax credits. So advanced child tax credit. So we got the advanced child tax credit here. The IRS encourages employers to help get the word out about advanced payments of the child tax credit during Small Business Week. Employers have direct access to many who may receive this credit. So more information on the advanced child tax credit, there's a link to that here, is available on irs.gov, irs.gov, the IRS website. The website has tools employers can use. There's a link to the employer tools here to deliver this information, including posters, drop-in articles for paycheck staffers, newsletters, and social media posts to share.